Alright, you guys, welcome to my channel. It's 2 silver coins for the boatman. Here we're ready to do a review for Aragorn in the game Rise to War, a commander review. What you see on your screen right now is my checklist that I'm going to go over and just kind of hit on some key points that I think are important. First is being what kind of commander is he, the value he holds, his ranking, versatility, speed of use, longevity, best builds, and examples of some battles. So without further ado, let's jump in and get going. Alright, the first point is what kind of commander is Aragorn? So he's listed as a balanced commander. What that means, and the game says, it's melee and support. I definitely agree with the melee portion of it. I guess you could say the support because you can kind of configure him several different ways, whether you want troop damage, commander damage, or kind of a mix of the two. I think his best is going to be where he is commander damage, where he's a damage dealer on it. What we're going to go over next is the skill options that you have. So commanders are typically broken up into 4 different trees. For Aragorn, the first one is going to be his Dunedain Chieftain. On mine, I don't currently have it, and so I've just listed what the max value would be underneath it. So right now, it's defense plus. If it was max, it would be at plus 30. Then you have brawl training against every melee unit. Damage dealt is plus 21%. Well prepared. Melee units, when hit by a normal attack within range, perform a counterattack that deals 3% damage. Max, that's 21% damage. Next up, we have the Androl tree. This is probably one of the most important trees for him. What we have is the first skill that we have for him is Androl. Max, which I have it here, is at against 2 enemies targets, deals 300% physical damage. Once you get out 15 out of 15, it also gives you might plus 15. Going up to the top branch of the tree is Cull the Weak. When that's maxed out, it's plus 210. So against enemy target with the lowest defense, which usually means ranged units. Not always, but usually means the opponent's ranged units would tend to do the most damage. So this will, in the first this will deal 210 damage to those. Weapons expertise, 50% chance of gaining damage plus 50%. Now as we move up into his center tree, which would be his Respect 3 tree, we have Strider. What that's going to do is base equipment stats. It's going to raise it plus 30%. Precise blow against one enemy unit, it deals 40% physical damage, or if it's max, 280% damage, and carries the pursuit effect. What pursuit means is that they can't avoid it. So if they have evade, it will still land the attack. Going down into his second skill tree, you have raid, and that carries rush against one enemy unit, deals 240% physical damage, 50% chance to deal an additional 240% damage when that's maxed. Now we get into his final tree, which is going to be the Hidden Heir. So the main one is Hidden Heir. Aragorn skill damage is going to be plus 20% when maxed and gains initiative. Initiative just means that he goes first in the fighting. When you have a major damage, that's a great asset because you are going to hit them, do damage first, and then they get to attack you. His next one is going to be Sun and Moon, which is men gain stun immunity against enemy orcs and Uruk-hai. You're going to take 21% less damage. And then you go down to Nobility, which is men damage is going to be increased 21%. So that's going to kind of round out his tree and what kind of skill options that you have available. So moving right along, what is the value of Aragorn? So on a monetary value, I would say it is pretty good. He's one of those commanders, or he is actually the only commander for the light side that you get right as you start the game. You can purchase him for 99 cents. As well as As you can see, I got Eladan's gift, but you could also buy another 300 respect, which I believe would get him up to our respect level 2, or maybe at respect level 3, but I believe it's respect level 2, right towards the end of it. That means right at the beginning of the game, you can have a tier 2 commander at least respect 2, maybe respect 3, for around $11, which is pretty good in my opinion. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into his ranking. So he's a tier 2 commander, and I would feel very comfortable in saying that he's a top 5 tier 2 commander when it comes to PvP. Now, some people may not say he is, but I would say that he's at least in that discussion. Now, I know there's some newer commanders that they've introduced that I really haven't had a lot of experience with. I think that if he's not in it, he's at least in the discussion. And really, it's going to be Theoden, Legolas, Gimli, Aragorn, and then you could kind of throw in whether you like Gandalf, Éomer, or Imrahil. It depends a little bit about your preference. But I think that he's at least in that discussion. The next category that we have is going to be versatility. And what I mean by versatility is some commanders may be ranked really high at their best, but they're very factional, or they need a specific type of unit that's only relevant in one faction. One that a lot of the tier 1 commanders, they perform well, but there's certain factions or tier 4 units that complement them, that kind of push them into that next level from being a good PvPer to being, a great PvP. Like Éowyn. Éowyn is a good PvP commander. But when you match her with a tier 4 cavalry unit, she really becomes a great PvP commander. She may not be the best example. A better one might be someone like King of the Dead. King of the Dead, if you don't really have access to Oathbreakers, he may be overpowered and he may be ranked high, but if you have those Oathbreakers. So, Aragorn's versatility, I would say, is pretty good. There are certain units that he does better, but there's not a unit that you would really say, man, if I don't have him, or if I'm not in this faction, he's really not going to be that overpowering force. He's still going to be a very, very good commander for PvP. So I would say his versatility is good. And when you look at his skill tree, there's nothing that really screams, I have to use a certain unit that's prevalent only in a certain faction, or, these units are the only ones that will really work with him. He has a pretty wide range of what kind of units he can use. Oh, speed of use, and what I mean by that is how quickly can you begin using this commander? There are some commanders, especially up in the T3 units, where you may say they're a really good, or they're a great commander, but you can't really use them until, R5. The T3s are really notorious for that. And what the downside is if you're, say, not spending a lot of money on this game, then you may get, say, a Galadriel, or even like a Witch Gandalf the White, where you've read or heard, he's one of the best commanders in the game, but when you find out, hey, you've got to get him to R5, and that's going to take a little bit, and it's going to take usually a little bit of money. Aragorn is with this Andril tree, he is pretty solid. And I'll show you some examples of some R3 battles. And really, for his best build, you don't really have to go much higher than R3. Obviously, higher is better, but, he's really usable at R3, which I would say his speed of use is pretty good, since for the original $11 that you spend, you can get him pretty close to R3. When we're talking about longevity, what we're talking about is, what is the ability of this commander once you've kind of built his R5, once you get him up into R10, even up higher than that, what's his ability to still produce more damage, since he is a damage commander? I would say, when you look at it, his tree pretty much every tree is going to produce more damage. You're hitting air, you're getting men damage. This one you're taking reduced damage, but you're Dunedain Chieftain, you're getting brawl training, or you're getting counterattack, Strider, and bumps up your stats. Obviously, we know about the Andril one. So I would say his longevity is good. So even once you've passed R5, once you've built out the best R5 build you can do, once you get him even higher than that, you can still stack on more damage production. So finally we get to what is the best build. And like I mentioned earlier, you really only need to get him to R3 to be able to take advantage of his best build. Now, obviously, you have to get him up to R6 or R5, actually, I believe it is, to be able to max out all the trees that you should be maxing out. When I say Aragorn is part of the 300 club, as you kind of see that little star on the bottom, what I really mean is that, in general, he's going to produce, around 300,000 in damage. Now, obviously, that's going to depend on who your opponent is, what kind of units you have and gear. But here he's going against a Dwalin, and he took 176,000 and he produced 292. And it may vary. You could see it go down to 260. It could go north of 300. That's just what something that we use, or I use, to indicate that he can produce a lot of damage under the right circumstances. So the best build, in my opinion, you're going to have max the Andril tree out. So you're going to have Andril at 15 out of 15, which is going to produce 300% physical damage against 2 targets. You're going to have Call the Weak, so that's going to focus on normally the enemy ranged unit. It's going to be max at 210%. And you're going to have Weapons Expertise, a 50% chance of dealing an additional 50% damage. You're going to want to go ahead and max out the Strider tree. So that's going to be a boost of base stats plus 30%. Precise Blow, that's going to be maxed out. Get you against one enemy unit, deals 280% damage. It carries the pursuit effect, so they can't avoid it. You're going to do Raid, which is going to, against one enemy unit, deal 240% damage and have a 50% chance at dealing another 240% damage. We can look back over the skill tree to kind of see what those skills are going to get you here. But when you look at his equipment, you've got the axe, you got a blue armor, and then another 2-star purple helmet, and just a gold piece of equipment. Nothing screams overpowered. Now, he does have the Oathbreakers with him, which is a unit that pairs really well with him. But, you don't have to put it. You could put a ranged unit there. When you look at it, though, his damage dealt is at 205,000. Which is going to be really good. And we're going to compare some other builds so you can kind of take a look and see how that compares. But once again, his best build is going to be maxing the Andril tree and then maxing the Strider tree as well. Let's go ahead and take a look at some other battles between different types of commanders or different commanders. So here you have an Aragorn going to level 50 going against a Boromir. If you look at the damage received, we received 179. They dealt 230, almost 231. So 230 for an R3, that's nothing, that's not bad. But when you look at the commander damage is at only 108,000, almost 100,000 less than what we were dealing with what we consider the best build, or what I consider the best build. When you switch over and you look at his gear, I don't think that it's overpowering, the first one compared to this. I think it's better, but I don't think, this is just horrific gear. There's another battle. Now this one is a little lopsided because you are going to 49 versus a 44. Faramir's not considered a good commander even on his best days, but he is playing as Gondor with Bow Knights, which Faramir is a factional specific commander. Really needs to be in Arnor or Gondor to kind of maximize his potential because they have those T4 units. Well, we did 231,000 in damage and took 94,000 back. If you look at it, they were using oath breakers, and they took care of the Androl, they took care of Dunedain Chieftain, and then they filled out partial onto the Strider. But when you look at that commander damage, still you're only doing that 135,000 in it, compared to almost 195 that we were doing previously. The next one we got is a 49 Aragorn going against a 49 Eowyn. They are both using tier 4s. She's probably considered one of the best T1 battle PvP commanders. It'd probably be a toss-up between her and Dwalin. And they're using an all-cav, so that's good. We received 216, dealt 217. She healed up 36,000 of them. When you look at his commander build, though, it looks like they, max out the Androl tree. They also took advantage of partial of the Dunedain Chieftain, and then once again that Strider tree as well. And the last one that I have is going to be a 47 Aragorn going against a 47 Gandalf the White. We took 152,000 and we dealt 197,000 on it. Now Gandalf the White is considered a pretty strong tier 3 PvP commander. I don't know exactly what respect level he was at. But when you take a look at it, I'm guessing it wasn't R5 because I believe he would do more than 152 on it. And when you look at his damage, once again, this is more of a typical PvP build that you might run into, where you have part of the Androl, the parts of the Dunedain, and then the hidden air, or parts of it at least, maxed out or points on it. This one, the player is also running Oathbreakers on it. And it does pair very well with Aragorn. And when you look at it, a lot of times the soldier damage is very similar between all the battles. It's really that commander damage that kind of pushes him up closer to the 270, 280, 300 range that we're looking for when we want to PvP him. All right, so that kind of wraps up our review of Aragorn. I hope this video was helpful for you. I hope it kind of gives you some ideas. Leave a comment. Tell me how it worked, if it did work or if it didn't work. Or if you found a build that you think produces better results on it. And if you did like the video, definitely like it, share it with a friend, or share it with your faction so that they can also begin building those better builds on it. Appreciate you hanging out with me, and have a great rest of your evening.